Hello, everyone. Welcome to C-Suite Talks. We speak with industry leaders, introducing you to some of the most interesting people in businesses today. We're focused on women, money, and power, as well as diversity in all areas. Welcome to C-Suite Talks. I'm Beth Hilbing, co-CEO of C-Suite.
And I'm Dianne Gubin, co-CEO, along with Beth. And this week, well, first of all, thank you for listening. And this week, we are so happy to speak with Michel Narganes. Michel is currently a partner with Manatt's Digital and Technology Transactions practice. And she leverages her experience advising early stage ventures, emerging companies, large corporations, and investors during digital transformation partnerships and strategies. Welcome, Michel.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, so
Oh,
that was a
you're welcome.
mouthful. Tell us what you really do at Manatt.
A little bit of everything. I actually straddle two groups. So I sit in our tech transactions group, which is focused really on sort of the buying, selling, licensing of intellectual property in various forms. And then also sit in our emerging companies group. So working with early stage companies and early stage investors on sort of the whole gamut of concerns that early companies deal with, from both, from fundraising, which is obviously super important, but also, employment issues, commercial issues, go to market strategies and issues. We sort of, a lot of us in that group sort of serve as general sort of outside counsel for these early stage companies.
How long have you been with Manatt?
I've been with Manatt about 18 months, which has been just awesome.
Yeah, I know it's a fabulous company and Donna's just wonderful. But kind of what led you up to Manatt and how did you get there? What's kind of your career path? I'm
Right.
curious.
Yeah, I've had sort of a winding path to being a partner at a large law firm. As a baby lawyer, I started out in big law. And was doing sort of the path they traditionally tell you have to be on to be successful in private practice. You have to be at a big firm and gun for partner. And 20 years ago, you were probably guided in a direction of maybe you wouldn't be able to have kids and do that at the same time. So I kind of lucked out. I got to do that, be at a big firm, and get great experience, and then kind of took a step back. I had kids. I had my own little practice part-time when my kids were small. And then I was in-house for a very long time at a technology company here in San Francisco. But kind of felt a little bit pigeonholed. It was kind of doing the same stuff every day, and it was not sort of all that interesting anymore. And had an opportunity to go back into private practice, and that's where I'm at now. And so, which has been a really wonderful and rewarding experience to be back, you know, in private practice, sort of being on the forefront of companies engaged in new technologies all the time, which is fun because you're kind of always learning.
Right. We love
Yes.
it. Plus, we know Manatt is a wonderful place for women executives.
Yes, absolutely.
For sure. For sure. And you've spoken on a number of technologies over the years. What are the buzzwords that you're hearing more of and less of? And,
Yeah.
what's happening out in the world in tech with
Yeah.
buzz?
I mean, I think it's been sort of an interesting kind of I don't know, 2.5 years. We've had this whole big sort of blockchain was sort of the word of the day. And I don't think blockchain has gone away, but a lot of the technologies that we were so focused on, right? Like NFTs, cryptocurrencies, companies wanting to do coin offerings to raise funds. That's kind of gone by the wayside. I mean, NFTs are still popular and people are still doing them, still minting them, but we're not sort of seeing the frequency or the volume or the dollar amounts associated with NFTs that we were seeing, 2.5 years ago. So I think, sort of that craze of Web3 crypto has sort of been dying down a little bit. I don't think it's going away. I just don't think it's sort of what everyone is sort of focused on anymore. I think, not surprising to anybody, AI seems to be what everybody's focused
I
on
know
right
it
now.
kind of popped out. It's been around, but it's like all of a sudden it's regenerated itself. It's huge. Yeah, it's
And the
interesting.
chat,
Yeah.
and are you involved with like all the chat stuff too and all those issues? Wasn't there an attorney who did an entire case and used chat GBT to write in?
Mhm. I was not that attorney.
Okay.
Don't even. Um, No, I think we see we're seeing a lot of it in and to Beth's point, AI has been around for a while, like the initial form of AI or machine learning, where you're sort of training um training on various data sets to training the technology. But now we're sort of seeing we're seeing iterations of it where generative AI, where the technology has evolved such that it's really producing things on its own, and so you're putting the calls in, but the responses are fully generated by the AI, which is fascinating and scary at the same time. um and I think we're seeing a whole host of questions and issues related to that, right? So if you put the call in and you get and you get what's produced, is that, do you own that? Like, who owns that? It's not like you're creating the intellectual property. The
Bot is
technology
or
is
whatever.
producing it,
Right,
right?
Yeah.
And
right.
so
And is
there
it
are a lot of
plagiarism? Wait a second, Michelle, is it plagiarism if it's connected by chatbot?
I mean, you don't know. It's hard. It's certainly not your own work, I don't think. I don't know. So there's another partner at Manatt, Jess Wood, who wrote an article related to copyright issues um of 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 work product produced by A, and just the whole host of issues that we're seeing related to that. So I think it's something that, we don't necessarily know the answer to yet. I think we're sort of trying to base our answers on what exists for not AI produced technology, and kind of seeing where we can go, seeing sort of what sticks and what doesn't stick.
Yeah. I feel sorry for the artist. Everybody always goes after the recording
Yeah,
artists,
really, I know. To get to
or
this point where you're even thought that
making
way.
some money, and then I know I
Yeah,
feel bad.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
So the other thing that's interesting about, and I thought about this, I recently went to a seminar and they were talking about
Uh-huh.
blockchain and crypto and everything. And they were saying that the Federal Reserve could put a stop to all this if the Federal Reserve decided to come up with an alternative to cash. And then
Oh,
crypto and everything would just go away. Do you know if there's a leaning towards that, or have you heard anything about that?
I like my cash.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there have been countries that have used cryptocurrency. Right? We've seen that it hasn't necessarily been all that successful. Do I think that the US Reserve is going to come out and create a digital currency? Maybe, but I don't think it'll exist as the way we think of crypto existing right now, right? Like Bitcoin or Ethereum, because I still think the Federal Reserve would want to tag it to something, right? They would want it to be, it would still be pegged to some sort of other valuation, I would imagine, right? Some sort of what we call fiat, right? Like actual, what we consider like real currency, right? The dollar or whatnot. I wouldn't imagine they would sort of create something and it wouldn't be pegged to something else. That being said, I do think the idea of them and other jurisdictions creating digital currencies likely makes sense, but I still think it would be regulated, or would likely be regulated in the same way that fiat is
Right.
regulated now, right? I don't think they would sort of create it and be like, woo, free for all. It's going to exist like Bitcoin exists. Like, I don't think that's the case. And I think, part of what is appealing, a lot of folks that are very much ingrained in sort of the crypto world, like this idea of it, the fact that it isn't regulated, right? That it is decentralized, that you can exist but not exist, right? It's people can't find you. And
Mm.
that is just not how our federal government
Yeah,
or
yeah, they want to find
No,
you.
no,
most
no. They want
of
to take every cent they can.
they
Yeah,
want to
exactly.
they want to know
Yeah,
exactly who you are and where to find you, and what you
Yeah.
ate for breakfast. So
Right.
right, right. So,
so it's a
so
little bit of a dichotomy there.
right, right. So really, you're not seeing crypto and blockchain over. I know from the work I'm doing, investment banking, that's like
Mm-mm.
such important niches right now. Everybody's going
Yep.
into blockchain. I want to build everything on the blockchain, right?
Absolutely.
And have
Because I
all
think,
the
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I think when people sort of immediately assume anything that's blockchain related is crypto related, and that's not the case at all, right? Um, And I think, you know, I think you're right. I think blockchain as a technology is going nowhere. I think the value of what blockchain technology can do from a ledgering perspective, is going to continue to be appealing across, you know, a whole host of industries. Um, Gaming continues to utilize blockchain technology and continues to grow in that space across all sorts of different chains, right? Like, not as much Bitcoin as a blockchain, but you know, in Ethereum and Solana, very much so, as a chain is utilized in gaming a ton, right? And I don't think we're going to see that going away at all, because the functionality of it is so appealing to sort of the gaming world.
I just think, yeah, they've used the terms interchangeably, and I think that's why people get confused.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
For sure.
I
For
want to
sure.
ask you about the Beeple's piece every day in the first 5,000 days on the first digital auction held by Christie's.
Sure.
Can you kind of expand about that and what that was about?
Yeah,
That's kind of
yeah.
interesting to
First,
me.
tell us. I had to look it up. Tell us what Beeple's Piece Every Day is. The first 5,000.
So
Tell us what it is.
Yeah, no, Beeple is a famed digital artist. He's done all sorts of interesting work. He's done pieces with Madonna. He and this was maybe, I don't know, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
We represented a marketplace that is it's a digital art marketplace, and they had this opportunity to work with people and work with Christie's and sort of facilitate this the ability for people to auction off um to auction off this piece at Christie's, which had never been done before. Christie's had never auctioned off a piece of digital art, nor had they ever accepted cryptocurrency as payment. And so it kind of happened in a weekend. We negotiated the agreements, and hadn't really been done before. You know, how do you sell? Artist agreements existed, right? Like, if an artist is going to put something up for sale for an auction for a physical piece of art, like, those existed.
Right.
But when it's a digital piece of art, there's a whole the intellectual property concerns, because it's,
Mhm.
you know, you're licensing it, right? Because it exists in a different medium than a physical piece of art. So there were added concerns there about, you know, could it be monetized, commercialized? You know, what were the
Right.
rights
Right.
that were going along with the piece?
Can it get stolen? Right. Like.
Yeah, right. Like,
Oh.
what are there takedown rights? So it was really interesting, and we were able to get agreements in place, which was fascinating. And then I don't think anyone expected it to sell for what it sold for, and it ended up selling for like $69 million.
Oh,
Oh my
geez.
gosh. And this is a piece of digital art. So basically it
It's a
sits in
piece of
in
digital
your
art. And
drive,
so,
right? So
yeah,
what do you do with this? Honestly, I don't have my head around what do you do with a piece of digital art? It
I mean,
becomes a
it can be
screensaver?
displayed anywhere. You know, it's, you know, you own it because
Yeah.
it's ledgered on the blockchain that
Right.
it's yours, and it can be authenticated in that
Right.
way. And you just could display it in a whole host of different ways, right? On a screen, on a TV, I suppose, you know, however you would want to
Right. I guess you
display
could
that
print
in
it.
your home. But yeah, I mean, that's like a very famous baseball card, I suppose, right? Like, it's
Or
not
or
any,
calligraphy or something like that. Yeah.
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 Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So, yep. So it
Or
was
sell.
the third most expensive sale of a U.S. living artist, piece by a
Wow.
U.S. living artist.
And who did you represent? Christie's or the artist?
We represented the platform that facilitated the transaction. They're called Maker's Place.
Oh,
Yeah,
got it.
and they curate digital artists. They're a wonderful platform. People should check them out. They do very cool stuff all the time.
So I
Terrific.
haven't heard much about NFTs anymore. Is that still a thing? Is it still
Yeah, yeah,
happening?
we kind
Yeah,
of
I
did an
think
NFT and it never got out in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. Yes, NFTs absolutely still exist, and I think how they exist is a little bit different than that, you know, than something like the Beeple sale, right? But we see you know, video games, again, for as an example, when people create their avatars and then they win a sword and then they do this, like, all of those are NFTs. They're
Oh,
built like
okay.
NFT.
Oh,
Um, and all an NFT means is it's a non-fungible token, meaning that it's different than all the other tokens, right? So if you create something if you create an avatar to look like you and you mint that, it's a one of a kind token. So people use them in gaming all the time. I think they're utilized still quite often for fan engagement. See, like sports teams still will use them still, I think. But I think the idea of them, the one-offs, like, art sale, I don't know if we're gonna, those still happen, but I don't know if we're gonna see these huge prices right now. I mean, we might again, right? Because I think the scarcity is what drives the price. So we'll see. But I think sort of the fanfare around it has quieted down a little bit.
Okay. Are people coming to you? Are people still coming to Manatt about all this and wanting services from Manatt?
Definitely blockchain and crypto. Yeah. Right. I mean, NFTs are a part of it. NFTs for our gaming clients, sure, all the time.
Right.
We talk about, what are the implications of launching a game on the blockchain, and what does that mean? And, if they want to have issue tokens for use within the game, are those considered securities? Are they not considered securities?
Are they?
There's all sorts of I'm not going to make it just,
It's not decided. Who decides if they're a security or not?
Well, I mean, there's analysis that you can do as to whether something is going to be considered a security or not. I think, given that the SEC is laser focused on cryptocurrency and crypto companies when it comes to securities, with determinations as to whether
if I buy a sword in a game, you're saying that could be a security.
No, I'm saying it likely isn't, but I'm saying if you have a game that issues, like, you win 100 coins because you killed a monster, you've got to be really careful as to what that means to make sure you aren't triggering securities laws.
Okay, got it.
Oh, because they have some kind of value or something, right?
Well, yeah, you want to make sure they don't have a value. You want to make sure they don't meet the Howey test. But I mean, but I think that's the thing with tokens. Until the SEC the issue is that the SEC hasn't really given us a firm answer on a lot of things.
Right.
So we continue to sort of,
Yeah. Well, given that example, what's the difference between, your 100 coins in the game and your mileage points on United, right? Or any of those benefit point things, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good argument. So I think, you
Dianne, don't give them ideas.
Yeah, you just try to on the side of being cautious and protecting your clients.
Oh, right. Okay, got it. So we can't do C-suite. C-suite. What would be our equivalent?
It's just like the IRS came out. I love that the IRS said, now, even if you're stealing from people in their homes, you should be declaring your stolen goods on your income taxes. And I'm like, oh, really?
You have to be an honest thief.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, exactly. Just track it back to where you got it.
Yeah, exactly. So, what are some of your concerns related to AI that you're seeing?
Oh, yeah.
And one of my concerns is, what do you feel about just Google and Amazon kind of owning that space?
Right. Especially, you know what? Let's just say, because it's your concerns now, but you had mentioned before you're a mom. I'm a mom. Beth is a cat mom, right? So what does this mean for down the pike for our generations, right? What does it mean?
I mean, I think it's I think AI is something that I would personally want to see more regulation around before it's sort of launched into the stratosphere. But I I think we've also we're starting to reach sort of an inflection point of, I don't know if it's possible to sort of put the genie back in the bottle to regulate it in any way. So I don't have sort of a glass ball. I don't know the right answer. I think, I think we're going to kind of have to see, but I think it's highly likely that, schools are, I wouldn't want my child being relying on AI to write a report, but but I also think you have to make sure that they're being taught how to utilize certain technologies appropriately. So I don't think it's going away. And I think the task in front of us is to sort of see how best to manage it going forward. I mean, Google and Amazon, frankly, own all of our data already. So I don't think that they're going to be learning much more about us because they also own AI. But I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, well, that's
I know
interesting.
you have to go live in the woods to get out of that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
So what are you kind of focused on this year? What's going on with your career this year? Some of the key focus as we wrap up for today's session.
Yeah, I mean, I think AI continues to be a huge focus. Manatt's doing a series of webinars related to artificial intelligence and where we're seeing it in different industry sectors. We just did one on AI's use in the entertainment space. We're doing it we're seeing it a lot in the healthcare space. So I think that's kind of interesting. We're sort of seeing it pop up in sectors that are usually slower to adopt technologies. So it's kind of interesting that AI is being utilized in healthcare. So which I think, for sort of which I think is kind of interesting and innovative in how it's being utilized.
Right, and that can be
So,
scary
you
too.
know, well, it's not generative AI. It's more of machine learning AI to sort of like, make to right. It's sort of training information. So, it's interesting. I don't. I no, it's not that the AI is making like diagnoses. Like, let me be clear about that.
Okay,
It's not that
okay,
the AI is being a doctor. That is not the case. That is not what is happening. But I think in any field that has a lot of information, assistance in sorting information is often that sorting mechanism is often some kind of machine learning. Right. So that's not as scary as like, oh, it created a new person, but that's still a form of artificial intelligence, right? Because
right.
you're teaching this code to behave in a certain manner based on the data it's analyzing.
Wow. Well, thank you. So, thank you, Michel Narganes, who is a partner at Manatt's Digital and Technology Transactions practice. So, tell us, how does anybody find you?
Manatt.com, I suppose.
Okay.
I'm there.
All
You
right.
can shoot me an email
Sure.
or
Up on the
give me a
website.
call. I'm easy to find, I think. No?
Terrific, because you're an expert, and we're going to be tapping into you as we launch our San Francisco C-suite chapter. So, thank you for that. And why don't we thank our sponsors? Beth, you want me to take that?
Sure, go ahead.
Great. So thank you. First of all, thank you to our listeners. We very much appreciate you. If you're looking at C-Suite, do join us. Become a member. The membership link is up on the website. And thank you to our sponsors, Google, the law firm of Manatt. I should have started with you. So thank you, Michelle. City National Bank, the law firm of Paul Hastings, Uncle Nearest, which is a female-owned bourbon company and just fabulous. Interpublic Group, IPG, which is advertising, media, and PR companies, and my company, Amplify Professional Services. We do executive search and IT consulting. So, Beth, take us away.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is live streaming on LinkedIn, so please listen and then hit the subscribe button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. And then, of course, rate us 5 stars on review. Michelle was super interesting today. And then you can follow us on all the social media channels and send us an email and reach out, become active. Beth at csweet.org. And check out our website, www.csweet.org. And thank you for listening today and have a great day. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.